Hey guys, Doug Walker here. I am doing a fast review of a movie called Unfriended. This was apparently a pretty big hit over the weekend, from what I heard, and a lot of people are talking about it. It's a movie where it's all done on Skype, pretty much, and it's all done just through like these little web cameras and such, and there's been some that have tried to do this. We saw one recently called The Den that wasn't good, wasn't bad, but it sort of did a lot of cheats too, like, they take the camera everywhere, kind of like those found footage movies. But this one, it's mostly just these kids on their web cameras just looking at a screen, and that's kind of it. And it's surprisingly really different and really cleverly done. And it has great commentary, and it's really unique. But before I get into the detail of it, let me tell you the story about buying the tickets to it, which I know doesn't sound that riveting, but my wife and I were looking for a scary movie to see because she loves scary movies, but we so rarely see actual scary movies because there's so few actual good ones out there that are scary. And this weekend there was two. There was Unfriended, and then there's one called It Follows, which has like 95% on Rotten Tomatoes. So we wanted to see this movie, and there's only one showtime, so we try to get tickets, but it looks like there's only one seat. There's not two, even though we pay for two. It's like, pick your seats, plural, and there's only one shown. So we call a guy over like, hey, we can't, this is one of those movie theaters where we have to pick the seats ahead of time, and we said there's only one seat, is there two or whatever? And he just says, oh, you don't want to see that movie, it's all about... And he proceeds to just totally ruin the film, like give away what it's about and everything. And we both just kind of gave him this look like, well, thanks, we'll probably never see that movie. And he's just like, oh, no problem, no problem. Like, he really thought he saved us. I just want to save you money, guys. It's like, okay, can you pay me the money I paid for this ticket then for ruining a film for me? So we were missing the showtime for that because there was only one seat. So we saw Unfriended was showing. Well, okay, that's kind of our second choice. So we picked that. And like I said, we were kind of pleasantly surprised by it. It's one of those movies where it's these, I think, five teenagers who are just having a Skype chat about God knows what. At first I was like, well, this is unrealistic. Why would they just sit around and talk and not do anything? And then I remember their teens, and I'm like, yeah, okay. This probably does happen. Yeah, so they're sitting around just sort of talking, chatting, whatever. And it's mostly done from the screen of our one main character, of our main character, this girl who is friends with this other girl who committed suicide. And it's the 1-year anniversary, of course. And something is messing with their computers. There's this person in the chat that's not revealing who he or she is, and they're trying to get rid of him, and they can't get rid of him. Then bugs start happening on their computers, and things start going wrong, and the glitch starts talking to them and starts manipulating them, and it just sort of gets worse and worse and worse, and eventually... big shock. I mean, some of them start to get axed off and so forth. And it just sort of progresses from there. But it's all done. What's so clever about it is that it is not that it's all done online. Because like I said, that's kind of been done before, like I said, with this movie, The Den. But with that movie, like... if the person wanted to leave the house or she wanted to film something on her phone or something like that, they would show it like from the phone or from, at some point, like the character's captured and like they put a camera on her head. Like it gets really forced and it gets into like goofy kidnappings and stuff like that. But there's good stuff in that too. I didn't hate it. But this one's really smart because it is just like the ultimate minimalist. It's just this girl's computer screen. You see the music she picks, you see which person she wants to listen to, you see when she mutes it, you see when she looks up information and stuff, and it's gonna sound bizarre because like the acting is fine, but the best actor in the movie really is the arrow. It's the computer arrow. Because you see the franticness of her not knowing. It's like, should I write this? Should I not write this? And they really know how to start off with something so simple as just a person they don't recognize in a chat and have it just constantly escalate and get worse and worse because she's talking to this person, and then she writes something in the box, not sure if she should send it or not, and then the person on the other end responds to what she wrote in the box even though she didn't send it. So little touches like that are so smart. But the great thing about this is I don't think I'm really giving anything away by saying this is kind of in the trailers, but is that all of these people, all of these characters are terrible people. And kind of the agenda that I got out of this, I thought was really friggin' brilliant, is that this is very much an anti-cyberbullying movie. But it's done in a way that would actually speak to teens. And don't get me wrong, all those videos where it shows someone that's like looking really sad to the camera and being like, you know, I was hurt, I was really offended, and I don't know what was going on. It's all legit and it's all real, and it's like, dude, it's terrible that shit goes on. But I'm thinking to myself, if I was a snot-nosed idiot troll that like to go out and do this stuff, you know, I'd be like, oh, look at that fucking pussy. Well, I'm gonna make fun of them even more. This is a film that speaks to that kind of language, that really extreme don't cry wolf point of view, and it's done from a horror film point of view, and it's done like really hardcore, and it's gory, and it's extreme, and like the deaths are really creative and silly and over the top, but it's never to a point where it doesn't quite go too far. It still keeps the fear and the build-up right there in the room with them talking, and it's one of those films where it just shows, like, my whole standpoint on, like, whatever, people that is cyberbully or trolls or whatever, I sort of have these two very opposite standpoints. You know, one is that, you know, if you're really trying to get the respect of these idiots, it's just not worth it. If you could see half these people, you know, most of them are people that have, like, never left their basements, you know, don't have a job, and never slept with anybody. It's like, why would you want the respect of these people? But then the other angle of that as well, which I kind of like even more, is that it says, okay, look, there's going to be people out there who are going to act like idiots, but there is a price to pay for living a life of idiocy. And that's what I like about this film. It's saying, look, yeah, there's going to be idiots out there, and they're going to say this kind of stuff, but you have to know there's consequences to living like a dumbass. There's consequences to going out and, you know, fuck, go kill yourself, or rape, ha. There's consequences to that. You know, you need to actually think in order to survive. It's a crazy thought. So I like that angle more, but it's tougher to convey because so many people are just like in a mindset, I need attention, I need to go get it as fast as I can, and negative attention is faster to get than positive, sadly, because positive involves work, and who wants to do that? So with that said, I love how these kids, they're not the typical sort of nerdy, geeky hackers. There's only one, and that is, I don't want to say like a hole in the plot or anything, but it's totally possible that, whatever, a group of super pretty, good-looking, athletic teens would have one person who's a friend who's like really overweight, not the best looking, curly hair, dirty, a stoner, a hacker, a computer geek. But it's unlikely. It happens more in movies than I think in real life. But it's totally possible. So it's, on the one hand, I'm like, this is a little weird, but, you know, you buy it. It's fine. Because you need someone who's a computer genius to show you can't do this stuff. But it shows, because this is sort of what we're discovering too, even though it's probably not as many, like, there are just spoiled brats out there, again, just looking for attention, and sadly the internet's just a really easy way to get this attention, you know, and let out their own insecurities or whatever, you know, without taking responsibility for it. And this film is saying, hey, if you're gonna do this shit, you gotta take the responsibility for it. But it does it all in a still traditional horror film manner. That's what's so wonderful about it, is that you can watch it and just enjoy it as a horror film, but in the back of your head, you're sort of thinking, yeah, maybe I shouldn't have picked on that one kid, you know, just for pretty much no reason. It's like, go kill yourself or something like that. So it's, because, I mean, we have seen, and we're going to see a lot more videos about, you know, the trials and the terrible things about cyberbullying, or just bullying in general. And trust me when I say it's not like stop those. It's like, no, they're very heartbreaking and they're hard to watch. But at the same time, you have to try other avenues that can work. And I think this one, to people who do try this stuff, it would probably, or even on the verge of kind of doing this stuff, this would probably speak a little closer, because it's just like a big punch in the face for it. And it's a horror film. So with that said, I'm not going to act like this is the big Now cyberbullying is going to be gone. No, maybe it'll have no impact at all. It's a clever attempt at doing this while also telling a good, scary story. But with that said, I have a prediction for this movie. This is my guess. I think a lot of people are going to see it and they're going to be like, wow, this was great. This was really cool, and trying different stuff and everything. And because of that, there's going to be a lot of other people coming in like, trying to nitpick the problems with it, and it's like they hear the hype, oh, go ahead and scare you, come on, and if you're going in with that attitude, you're not gonna like it, because there are, a lot of nitpicks with it that you can make fun of. For example, the main character doesn't know what a troll is. What? It's one of those things where some of these setups are like, okay, you're doing this for like the handful of people that don't know some of these computer terms, which seems silly anyway, because the whole movie is done from her screen, and if you don't know computer stuff, you're not gonna be able to follow all this stuff. And then she also doesn't know how to play I Never. It's like, who doesn't know A, what a troll is, and B, how to play I Never? It's very bizarre. But again, they're doing it obviously to explain to the audience, and those scenes are kind of forced. And in terms of character, I mean, are you really going in expecting like that much like of a psychological, dive into when you go into a horror film, pretty much a slasher film where people just get axed off one by one? Not really. But they're totally serviceable and they're decent actors. I was really amazed when this movie started, and it's just the girl talking to her boyfriend. And I'm like, I feel like I'm watching a conversation. This is really good. Where like the first Paranormal Activity, I'm like, I'm watching two actors. I'm sorry, they're trying their best to act realistic and read the script, but I'm watching two actors. I mean, there was never for a minute where I felt like I was watching real life. But these kids are pretty good. Once in a while, there's something that's a little forced. Like I said, what's a troll? But it's mostly done really well. And another kind of complaint I have is that the build-up in this movie is so great, and they always know, try calling the police, and they show how that doesn't work. Well, try looking up reporting it, and they show how that doesn't work. Every avenue they tried to do, for the most part, they show how it can't work. If someone tries to leave, they show what happens when someone tries to leave, because it is a supernatural entity doing all this, so it's like, well, what can this thing do? But the downside of that, surprisingly, for me anyway, there was no actual scary imagery. The build-up in all of it was amazing. Like, I was laughing with joy throughout a lot of this because I loved these setups, and, suddenly there's a camera in the corner and they don't know what it is. And then, like, one of the people sits up and you see in the other camera him sit up. It's like, oh my God, there's somebody in that room. The camera's in the room, and you're waiting for it to pay off, and they're building it up and the person's getting closer and closer. You can hear the audience going, ee! Like that. But then the actual payoff, the scary imagery that they cut to, if anything, is almost more funny than it is actually scary. They go more for the gore and the creativity of the gore than the actual scariness. And that's kind of a letdown. I really wish they would go kind of the Paranormal Activity route, where it's like they would show some really actually legitimately creepy imagery. And you can, because it's a supernatural thing going on. But they don't. But the build-up is so great. And the setups are so great, and this ghost, talk to them, has a sense of humor too. It has like this really evil sense of humor, and it's all done through the text. And it's so much fun to see, in a funny way, because all these people are such terrible people. You're both kind of afraid for them, but you're also kind of, you're enjoying them get their comeuppance as well. So it's a nice mix. They're just teens as well, and they do stupid things that teens do, but again, like a lot of famous slasher films, right? The 13th and all that stuff, when they go and do stupid teen stuff, I mean, there's consequences to it too, and this is like the ultimate in-your-face, consequence. It's the boy who cried wolf. So yeah, I really enjoy the movie. There's definitely some problems I have with it, but they're not too bad. The scene where they actually do play the I Never game goes on a bit, but the progression from each scare to the next and the way they sort of pace it is so nicely done. and I was never bored by it. I want to see what this ghost was going to do next, because the ghost has such this diabolical, wicked way of really torturing these people more psychologically than gore, though you do get the gory as well. And like I said, it's for something that's a big issue right now, cyberbullying, and it's just so nice to see something that just goes like so extreme and so in your face. And whether or not it'll have that big an impact, I mean, my guess would be probably not, but it's so great to see. It's so great to see someone that tries sort of this avenue of, people that sort of use this extreme, crazy, in your face style, also combating it with this super extreme, crazy in your face style. So yeah, with that said, I don't think it's like a phenomenal masterpiece. Like I said, there's not any super great character development or anything like that, and even the idea of sort of this online horror film has kind of been done before, but it's done so well here. And it just sort of keeps adding twist after twist. But again, if you look at the trailer and you're like, I can't do that. I can't just look at these screens talking to each other and switching out and windows opening up and closing and reading text. If you can't do that, it's not going to sway you. This isn't a movie that's going to be like, it's so good, it will win you over despite that. It's done very well. But it is exactly that. It's looking at these screens that freeze up and get the glitches. Sometimes that adds to the scare, sort of the weird embedding, like suddenly an eye will be up here when the person's moving and then it'll go to normal with the glitches and stuff. But if you look at it, you're just like, oh, this looks creative and different and new. Let's try it. It's fun. It's a really fun movie to check out. And that's one of the reasons I did the vlog, is because I'm just over anything that's trying something new and different. My big fear is that this does turn into kind of like a new found footage thing. I don't really want to see like 20 other films trying this, and I get the feeling that's going to happen. But, now before that craze happens and before we all start saying, oh God, it started with that Unfriended movie, that's a piece of shit because it started all this stuff. It's like, no, I think it's good to acknowledge now, before that craze happens, if it does happen, that this was a fun movie. It's not like a super deep or meaningful movie, but it's a good cautionary tale that speaks to a certain age, in my opinion, not being that age, but that tries speaking to that age in a different way, and in a fun way, and in a way that you can watch it just as entertainment, or you can watch it as, hey, there was a very obvious but good moral in here as well that, is trying to be addressed right now. And it does it in a really fun, entertaining way. I always say the best lessons are learned through fun. It's through something where it's like, you want to watch it, you want to participate in it because it's fun, not because you feel like you have to, but because you want to. And that's why I really like this movie, because it's teaching a lesson you want to learn. You want to see these people get their asses handed to them because they were so mean to this girl. And you want to see them, get backstabbed the same way they backstabbed her. But at the same time, they're just teens, and it's like, hey, this could kind of happen to you. You never know. Your insecurities, and that I was a teen too, and we all had our insecurities and let it out on the wrong people. So it's a really fun movie, and I definitely really, really enjoyed it. So, yeah, I don't think it's for everyone, but I think it's for anyone that sees this and it's like, oh, that looks kind of fun. It's more than kind of fun. It's a lot of fun. If you're willing to put up with nothing but screens and windows closing and opening up and a frantic arrow going, it does everything that you can with this scenario. They even sort of don't do much of the walking around, like holding the camera. There's like, at one point, one of the characters gets up and starts walking around holding the camera. I'm like, oh my God, are we really doing this? But they don't do it for very long. They sort of get rid of it pretty quickly. And there's one or two things you can predict pretty fast. I mean, like, there's a character at some point, like, whips out a gun, like, as a joke. Like, oh yeah, I have a gun. Well, I wonder what's going to happen with that. There's another one that has a knife. That's like, oh, well, gee, I wonder what's going to happen with that. But for the most part, I thought it was pretty clever. I thought as these sort of slasher slash supernatural movies go. This was really different and a lot of fun and cleverly done. It had a good moral. And yeah, like I said, I like anything that's, even if it's just a little different or a lot different, anything that just sort of mixes it up a bit and does it very cleverly. This is a very clever movie. So that's about all my rambling I have. If you can go check it out, go check it out. Take care.